Hi everyone! Today I'll be presenting chapters 9 through 12 of Leading Change by John Kotter. These chapters focus on the final stages of change, which is anchoring change in organizational culture, as well as broader lessons about why change succeeds or fails. While earlier chapters focus on implementing change, these chapters focus on making that change last. This is important because many organizations successfully implement change in the short term, but fail to sustain it over time. Where we are in the model, we are in Kotter's eight-step model, steps 1 to 8, build change, step 8, anchor change, chapters 9 to 12, anchoring change in culture, why change efforts fail, lessons from successful transformation. As shown on the slide, Kotter's eight-step model builds towards the final step, which is anchoring change in culture. Chapters 9 through 12 focus heavily on this final step in the long-term implications of change. Kotter emphasizes that without cultural change, even successful transformation can collapse. Organizations often revert to old habits if change is not deeply embedded. This is why change is not just about system or strategy, it is about people and behavior. Step 8, anchoring change in culture. Anchoring change means making change part of the company culture, reinforcing new behaviors, connecting success to new approaches, and ensuring change lasts over time. Anchoring change in culture means making new behavior part of everyday organizational life. This involves reinforcing new ways of working until they become normal. Kotter explains that change becomes stable only when it is reflected in the company's values, norms, and expectations. If change is not anchored in culture, it will likely disappear when leadership changes or pressure decreases. Why culture matters? Organizational culture influences behavior, shapes decision making, is difficult to change, determines long-term success. Organizational culture plays a powerful role in shaping behavior. It influences how employees make decisions, interact with others, and respond to challenges. Culture is difficult to change because it develops over time and becomes deeply ingrained. Kotter argues that culture determines whether change will succeed in the long term. In many cases, culture can either support or completely block transformation. How to anchor change. Leaders must show results of change, promote people who support change, align culture with vision, reinforce new behaviors consistently. To anchor change successfully, leader must clearly demonstrate the benefits of the new approach. Employees need to see that change produces better results. Leaders must also promote and reward individuals who support the new direction. This reinforces the idea that the new behaviors are valued and expected. Over time, these actions help integrate change into the organization's culture. Why change efforts fail revisited. Common failure reasons, skipping steps, losing momentum, weak leadership support, and poor communication. In chapter 10, Kotter revisits why change efforts fail. Even when organizations start strong, they often lose momentum. Skipping steps, weakening leadership support, and poor communication can all cause failure. Kotter emphasizes that transformation requires discipline and consistency across all steps. Importance of leadership. Effective leaders stay committed long term, reinforce change continuously, model behavior, and build trust. Leadership plays a central role in sustaining change. Leaders must remain committed even after early success. They must continue they must continue to reinforce the vision and model desired behaviors. If leadership attention shifts too quickly, employees may assume that the change is no longer important. This can cause regression to old habits. Lessons from successful change. Successful organizations follow all 8 steps, maintain urgency, build strong leadership teams, and communicate consistently. Successful change efforts share common characteristics. They follow all 8 steps rather than skipping ahead. They maintain urgency even after early wins. They rely on strong leadership teams rather than individual leaders, and they communicate consistently throughout the whole process. Role of employees. Employees must understand the vision, feel empowered, be engaged in change, and adopt new behaviors. Employees play a critical role in the transformation. They must understand the vision and feel empowered to act. Engagement is essential because change cannot be forced, it must be adopted. And Kotter emphasizes that widespread participation increases the likelihood of long-term success. When employees feel involved, they're more likely to support and sustain change. The future of change. Organizations must adapt continuously, embrace flexibility, encourage innovation, and develop leadership at all levels. In Chapter 12, Kotter discusses the future of organizational change. He argues that change is becoming more frequent and more necessary. Organizations must be flexible and adaptable to survive in a rapid changing environment. Continuous change mindset. Modern organizations need ongoing transformation, strong leadership culture, ability to respond quickly, and long-term adaptability. This means organizations must develop a continuous change mindset instead of viewing change as only a one-time project. They must treat it as an ongoing process. Leadership must exist at all levels, not just at the very top. This creates an organization that is capable of adapting quickly to new challenges. How all 8 steps connect. Urgency leads to coalition, leads to vision, leads to communication, which then leads to empowerment, which then leads to wins, which then gains momentum, and which then becomes culture. This slide shows how all 8 steps connect. Each step builds on the previous one, creating a structured approach to transformation. Skipping steps weakens the process and it increases the risk of failure. Kotter's model emphasizes that change must be systematic and sustained. Now for the key takeaways. Culture determines success. Leadership must sustain change. Change is continuous. People drive transformation. To summarize, culture ultimately determines whether change succeeds. Leadership must remain commitment over time. Change is continuous, not just temporary. And most importantly, people drive transformation. If the people are not on your side and they're not implementing the change, you won't get a transformation. Final thoughts. Change is not an event, it is continuous process driven by leadership and culture. In conclusion, Kotter shows that successful change is not just about strategy. It is about leadership, culture, and sustained effort. Organizations that understand this are more likely to adapt and succeed in the long term. Change is not an event. It's a continuous process. Thank you very much.